Hey, this is Dave Weber. This is a fun video because people have been bugging me about this. They've been asking me, and pretty much they say, Dave, what is up with that picture? So I want to show you what this picture is all about. It actually means quite a bit to me. Okay. I'll spill the beans. You see, this picture actually means a lot to me. It was on an awesome day with my brother, for one thing. But also, I figured out a strategy that helped us to be so successful at fishing for carp that it blew me away. In fact, I could not be denied. If I wanted one, I got one. Now, this is really about the internet marketing success, so stick with me a little bit. Let me show you how I cornered the market on the carp, and then I will show you how you can corner the market on a phrase on the internet. But first, don't get all crazy about the fish. They are not native to this country, and they do a lot of damage to the fish who are native. I mean, they do a lot of damage. They're bottom feeders, and they stir up the mud, quite a bit of mud, which coats the plants all over the leaves. And then the sunlight can't reach the leaves, and this slows down oxygen generation. And without oxygen, lakes can literally die. They also eat the eggs of the fish that you do want to catch. So you might go to the lake to fish for bass or for trout or sunfish, but the carp kill the lake by knocking out the oxygen generation, and they go around during spawning season and they suck up all the eggs of all the other fish. So basically, they take over the lake. And I sort of think of them as spammers, and they can become huge. This, I believe, is still the world contender for the heaviest carp. I've actually seen some that are longer, but this one is around 132 pounds. And it's a freshwater fish. But again, they're not native to the United States, but they're here now. So, and they're not something that I think you would want stuffed and hanging on the wall because they're not that pretty. So, how do we corner the market on carp and more importantly, the internet? First, you want to know what they want and what they need. What does that person want? When they type in something in the search engine, what do they want? What do they need? In the case of carp, well, I'll be truthful, this was spawning season, so I think you can figure out what they want. And in their mind, it was a need. Then you put yourself exactly where they will be when they look for that want or that need. So let's just check this out with carp first and the origin of my Gravatar picture. Now, this is Argyle Lake, West Babylon, New York. This is where I grew up, and I spent my boyhood, my childhood, fishing around all these lakes. I would go there every single day that I possibly could going there, and I hardly ever caught any fish. But this big lake is sort of like the internet. This is like being like you do a blog post or you throw something out there on the internet, and it's like landing on page 10 of the search engine result page. I mean, if you were going to go fishing, where would you put your line? I mean, there could be thousands of fish in this lake, but where are they? And if you throw in your line and all the other fish are at the other end of the lake, you get nothing. So it's just like being on page 10 of the search engine. But if we look closely, this picture is actually aligned with north being the top and south being the bottom. So if you look at the north, you can see over here, you can see, hey, there's a stream coming in, and this is how the lake is formed. So let's take a look at that. We can see where the traffic originates from. Now I zoomed in, and here's a parking lot, and here's a railroad trestle, and it's hard to see with the trees. They've grown a lot since I was a boy, but coming through here underneath the railroad trestle. Now a little bit of common sense would say, hey, if the sun rises in the east and swings along, towards the high sky or the afternoon sky or towards the south, well, we can actually use that railroad trestle to block out the sun and cause a huge shadow, right? So let's take a better look. So we zoom in, and you can see the distance from here to here is probably only 15 feet wide, and the water is like 2 or 3 feet deep. So you can see the bottom. And when the sun is overhead and the railroad trestle casts down the shadow, you can actually see into the water. Now you can see here's a railing, a sidewalk here, and there's a railing. If you look at my picture, I'm standing on the railing. Here's the railroad trestle above me, and I'm aiming down into the water. Okay? But that's talking about carp. So what about the internet? Well, if you want to corner the market, corner the phrase. A keyword phrase can be a niche market, a niche market, however you'd like to say it, and a niche blog or niche blog can corner that niche. So almost all traffic has to pass you first if you nail page one on Google and the number one spot on the search engine result page. Think about that. You're getting like 90% of the traffic because you're at the top of page one. Now, a couple of tips on how to do that. First, and I'm talking about a niche blog. I was trained to be a niche blogger, and I got kind of carried away with it because I had 26 blogs, and some of them were stupid, some of them are good, but it takes a lot of effort. But if there's a reason why you should have a niche blog, well, then they're well worth the effort. So first of all, the domain name should be the phrase. Let's say yourname.com or your hyphen name or your dash name.com. Now, I teach my people and my team, regardless of what I'm doing, to promote You Incorporated. And you know that I'm in MLSP, and MLSP teaches that too. So I 100% agree. You must promote yourself. And if there's ever one website that you should build, it's yourname.com. And you treat it like a niche or a niche, okay? But it is important. The domain name should be yourname.com or your hyphen name.com. I would try and get both of them. And this is critical. Your main static page should be the same. So the URL will look like this: yourname.com/your-name. That's what your website would look like. Now stop and think about that. If someone is looking for your name on the internet and they find yourname.com/your-name, doesn't that answer the question? You see, we just told the search engines exactly the answer to the question. We told the search engines when our prospect types in the keyword phrase your name, that yourname.com/your-name is the answer. Okay, it's the answer to the search request. Now, there's a little more to do. Okay, there's a little bit more work that we have to do. We have to deliver relevant content for the search term, first of all. And I'll tell you what, when my mentor told me I have to do this, it was the hardest thing in the world to write a page, especially a long, what we call a long copy page with my name. In fact, I want to go back and do it over because it was like the hardest thing I've ever done. Okay, but if it's yourname.com, then instead of talking about your name, talk about yourname.com when you're building the page. That's a tip that I learned the hard way. But anyway, you want to deliver relevant content for the search term and gain popularity that tells the search engine that this indeed is the answer to the question. Okay, so here's a little chart. Okay, now I want you to look at this carefully. At the top is yourname.com, your name. Okay, this is your site. This is what we do is we want to push that up. We want to push that site to the top of the search engines. We might start out on page 30 or 15, but we are going to push it up to the number one spot on the first page of Google. That's our goal. And how we do that is we concentrate on that, and then we go off and we do other blog posts or other blogs that we own. And this is real easy to do. You can do one of them. Actually, I don't like them because it says, whatever the URL is, the phrase .blogspot.com, but actually whenever you use Google tools, Google will help you build your business. So you can go over there and start up a new blog with blogger.com, which is owned by Google, and you can type in the phrase and boom. Now even though it says .blogspot, .blogspot, whatever your name is actually a subdomain on .blogspot. It doesn't matter. The search engine will look at your subdomain, and that's what it's going to be concentrating on. So you could have yourname.blogspot.com/your name. Google will still take that into consideration because it knows what it's all about. They own it. So you can actually create some of these sites yourself for free and do some of this. But what we want to do is use related keywords, and then we want to link back to here. And whenever you use a link, we want you to use your name. So if in the content of this page over here or this post, you say something about, your name, well, make that the link to here. So now you have a backlink in here that is your name going to yourname.com, your name. Do you see what we're doing? We're building and building and building this huge leverage, this huge machine that's promoting this niche blog. We're going to push it to the top of the search engine. And we go over and we can do this over and over again, and then we do others. We can do YouTube or YouTube videos. We can do articles. We can go to Web 2.0 sites. We can go to all of these different things. And I teach my people, I'm not going to get too heavy into this because this is what I teach my team, but what you want is sites that have really low Alexa scores. 200, 3 digits. Just concentrate on 3 digits. 200, 400, whatever. But those are the type of sites. So Web 2.0 sites, Web 2.0 sites, article directories, stuff like that. Get it in there. Put in your name. Backlink it up to here. Backlink it up to here. Everything goes back to the mothership. Now, do you see the resemblance of the lake? Remember, we had this big, huge lake. Big, huge lake. And if we dropped our hook over here, how much traffic would we get over here? See? Now, you might only get a few hundred per month. You might only get a few hundred per month over here. But all of it accumulates and creates a funnel and forces it back up to here. You see, it's like this is where the railroad trestle is that feeds the lake, only we're turning it around going backwards. We're taking all of this traffic, and this keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, and add it to the news wires and press releases and all this other stuff, and we drive all the traffic backwards up to yourname.com, your name, or whatever the URL is. So this is a really cool way of building a site that gets traffic and creates this niche. And the people have to go through you in order to find the answer. So now this is important for every single post that you do. If you get Rob Ford's course, posting on purpose for profit, I highly recommend that course. Stay focused. Every single thing you should do, everything you do should have a purpose. You should be doing it on purpose, and everything should be promoted. So it's a course I highly recommend. But if you really have a niche market that you're after, a niche blog is the answer. I don't want to say too much publicly because of the community that this video will also be posted in, okay? But I know a guy that made a niche blog. He nailed page 1 and position number 1 and has been there for 12 years now. If you type in the phrase, his site comes up. And he has made millions and millions and millions of dollars from that one site alone. He has a lot of sites, but that site right there, all by itself, he has made millions. So the work can be well worth the effort. And think of that lake for a second. That day, I got more fish than I ever did in all of my entire life up to that day. I used my head, I cornered the market, and I could not be denied. And now you know why. I use that dopey picture from my Gravatar. I am a niche blogger, and when you apply this to online marketing, you cannot be denied success. Thanks for watching this crazy video, and now you know why.